What's up? Welcome to your Daily Buckeye Blitz for a Tuesday, March 5th, 2024. Hope everybody's doing well out there. Hey, we got spring ball firing up this week. Keep it locked in here. We'll have Ryan Day's press conference. Whether you're on podcast or watching on YouTube, we will have the Ryan Day press conference for you and any players that are interviewed this week. Media is supposed to have some availability a few times this week. So as things are scheduled out and released to us, we will release it to you. I also want to mention the BuckeyeCast.com. Pop in there, get yourself some gear, Buckeye gear, and visit the Video Vault. Stop in there for a free trial. You get 3 days, run through all the Buckeye videos you want. We're well over 200 right now, on our way to 300 videos. All of your Buckeye legends highlights are in there. We've got condensed games in there. And then, of course, your recruiting videos, all the 2025 targets. So check it out at BuckeyeCast.com. All right, let's get into it today. Enough of that. All right. The big question, who's next at receiver? Who's the next Marv? So obviously, Marvin Harrison Jr. on his way to the NFL. He leaves Ohio State as, I would argue, the best wide receiver in school history. Now, I have seen a lot of Ohio State wide receivers. He's up there. I could make an argument easily. He's the best. Last year, he became only the second Ohio State receiver to ever win the Fred Biletnikoff Award, best receiver in the country. He's the only two-time All-American wide receiver at Ohio State. And, for a bonus, he was a unanimous selection both years. Last season, in only 12 games, he had 67 catches, 1,211 yards, 14 touchdowns. Then, as a sophomore the year before in 2022, 77 catches, 1,263 yards, and 14 touchdowns. He was the Big Ten's wide receiver of the year for both years, 22 and 23. And he was Big Ten Player of the Year this past season in 2023. So he also ranks sixth in school history in receptions, 155, sixth in receiving yards, 26-13, and third in TD catches with 31. And that's only in 3 years, essentially 2 years, 2 full seasons. But you'd be shocked to know, I don't know how many of you remember this, but as a recruit coming out of high school, Marv was ranked 13th, the 13th receiver on ESPN's recruiting rankings, which I don't know who the hell even looks at those. 15th ranked on Rivals, which is supposed to be better than ESPN, and then 21st ranked wide receiver on 24/7 Sports. This is his ranking at his position, not in the class. This is fucking terrible. 24/7 Sports is like, I think the best of the three services. They had him ranked 21st wide receiver. Pathetic. So tells you recruiting rankings aren't everything, and they do get it wrong occasionally. So who's next to fill in, to take over from Marv? You can't just replace a Marv, but the Buckeyes can put somebody new at his position and then share the throws, the snaps accordingly. Marv was the prototypical X split end receiver. Ryan Day lined him up all over the field at different positions, but eventually Harrison got more and more snaps out of the slot, especially this past season. And we all know Hartline cross-trains every receiver at every position on the field so that they can switch easily from one to the other. Emeka moves outside to the X, possibly. So that's an example. Harrison was an X receiver with some of those special skills that you need in the other positions. But overall, the wide receiver room is not the deepest Hartline has had. It's got some high-end guys, young guys, and an old guy, but the Buckeyes lost 4 receivers from last year's team and have just replaced them with the 2 incoming freshmen, Mylan Graham, Jeremiah Smith. But fortunately, Emeka Egbuka is back for 1 more year, and he could be the next in line to replace Harrison as far as production goes. and possibly even his position at the X. So Emeka already has experience playing everywhere on the field, so that's not an issue. Ibuka is on pace to become the second Ohio State receiver ever with 2 1,000-yard seasons. And then you got up-and-coming sophomore Carnell Tate. He looked the part last year as a Buckeye X split-end receiver, as a true freshman. But I think the Buckeyes will be in good shape if Tate is the X this year. Then you got third-year sophomore Kojo Antwi. He hasn't caught a pass at all in a game in his first 2 years. Now, I will balance that by saying keep in mind that former Buckeyes like Terry McLaurin, Paris Campbell, they didn't have a catch in their first 2 years either. So maybe, I'm not saying he's that, but there is precedence here. I love precedents. The Buckeyes have true freshman early enrollee Jeremiah Smith. He was the top player in the 2024 class. At 6'3", 200 pounds, Smith has the size that most people like at an X receiver outside, but with his freaky talent, he could work at any position. Just a matter of how much can he hold on his plate as a true freshman coming in, you know. So looking at spring, the big question is, what is Brian Hartline going to do with Emeka Egbuka? Egbuka's been in the slot for the last 2 years. He does have experience playing outside. So does Egbuka move around and work inside and outside? Or does Hartline just keep him inside? You know, questions that we need answered. Carnell Tate will be in the starting lineup somewhere, that's for sure. The Buckeyes need to replace 2 departed starting receivers. And if Tate is one, then we need to find the other starter. But where Tate ends up is still a question as well. Obviously, all eyes are going to be on Jeremiah Smith, all-world, Mr. Everything, Mr. Worldwide. He'll be going against some of the best corners in the country. So iron sharpening iron there. It's going to be interesting to get Denzel Burke's opinion of Jeremiah Smith, because he doesn't blow sunshine, especially for freshmen. He shoots you straight. So most likely, we know that everyone is going to play everywhere at some point, and Brian Hartline will say at some point this spring he has no idea who's lining up at X, Z, or the slot. So the receivers will start, quote unquote, at certain positions, but they won't necessarily stay there, you know, as they move around. So replacing a 1,000-yard receiver who had experience playing inside and outside while also being a reliable and consistent target is not easy to do. It will be the Buckeyes will be in the same position next year as Emeka goes off to the NFL. So right back having to replace another stud receiver. So since the receivers are becoming more positionless in their cross training and moving around the field, we should think of them in terms of targets. First target, second target, third target, etc. If we do that, then you replace Marvin Harrison Jr. with Emeka, right? If you think of who's target one. But one thing's for sure, Hartline's going to have the best 3 receivers in the lineup early and often, and regardless of their body type or their experience. So Hartline knows his group. He knows his room better than anybody. So we have to have faith in Hartline to put the best 3 out there, and don't take them off the field unless you got somebody on the bench that's just as good. That's always been his philosophy when it comes to playing time. So we'll see how it goes. But let's see where Tate lines up, where he ends up, and where Emeka lines up and where he ends up. But so I got for you today. Talk to you tomorrow. Go Bucks.